Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. We've had a bit of a change in appearance. So my name's Bill Borman. I'll be hosting this stage this afternoon, and I'm delighted to kick off with something special, some people who've travelled distance. What I'd ask you to do, just for 1 second, I'd ask you to do me a personal favour, and this is what it is. I'd just ask you to cheer and make some noise, because we have a collection of very nervous speakers, and they need all the encouragement you can. There are only two pins in, so they need all the encouragement you can give them. And we want people out there to think, oh, I really need to get in there. So if we could go on three, that would be fantastic. 1, 2, 3. And let's just keep it going and cheer for it. Woo, woo, woo. Right, that's fantastic. So I'm delighted to introduce a panel. I won't go through each of them individually, although I know them. I know you're in for a great treat, led by some probing questions from a great quizmaster. So,
thank you,
Craig
Bill.
Watson, over to you.
Thanks,
it's
Bill.
your show.
I think there's more people up here on stage than there are in the tent, so that's a good start, isn't it? There's some benefits and some drawbacks to having a small crew. The benefit is probably for us up here, we can just act like we're in the pub, which clearly most of you do, we're already having a drink. And the drawback for you guys is if any of you leave during it, we are going to notice and we will call you out. Yeah.
Sit the fuck down!
Also, we don't bite. So
yeah, we don't bite.
Come a bit closer, all of you, over there in the...
Yeah, let me feel it. Don't have to speak up. But the bar has been open for an hour, so thank you for making the effort. I did do a check on my phone app. It's 39.7 degrees inside this tent. So if you're feeling hot, it is hot.
Craig, shut up and get on with it.
All right, so we are going to be talking today about humility, AI and constant change, recruitment in the APAC region, which some of you may have either worked in or looking to work in the future. I'm lucky enough to be looking after this fabulous panel, so I'm going to introduce you to them to start with. We've got in the middle Tracy Quinn, Global Head of Operations at Bechtel Group. Tracy has never turned down a speaking gig since I've known her, and she's never turned down a Guinness or a Negroni or Pimm's, or anything like that either.
You're just making shit up now, Craig.
We've got Kate Boniface, who's the Senior Talent Attraction Mobility Manager at the Aussie Icon brand Australia Post, which is the equivalent of Royal Mail over here. So welcome, Kate. I was going to say something about you, about your karaoke and how your version of Angels is considered legally noise pollution. So I'll steer clear of that. We have Jamie Holder here. Jamie Holder is the Head of Talent at MUFG Recruitment Solutions and reigning APAC... Retirement Solutions? Did I say recruitment?
Yes.
Oh, gee, on the brain. And reigning Enterprise Talent Leader of the Year in the APAC region.
Yeah, she is.
Yeah, she's great. And on the end, Lauren Sharp, who co-hosts a little podcast with us. Now, Lauren grew up on a farm. I think that's part of the need why she needs to speak all the time. And she did grow up with a pet kangaroo. So she's typically Australian.
Kangaroo. Yeah. Well, there's actually a little story behind pet kangaroo.
Go on, tell us.
Well, Dad was
can
a
have a
local
drink.
copper, and someone had brought in this Joey because they'd hit their mum in the car with a car into the police station one night. Next thing, there's a Joey which is about this high in the cells. So Dad brought it home. So we had a pet kangaroo for about 6 months until it became about 6'4". Then it went to a fauna and wildlife park.
What was it called?
Skippy.
Skippy?
No. It was actually called Jerry.
Jerry the kangaroo. Beautiful. All right, we're going to get on to the questions before we lose people from the room. First question, I'm going to start with Kate. Oi. AI is the intern, the sourcer, the copywriter, and maybe even the recruiter. How do TA leaders in APAC balance adoption with humility, especially when tech knows everything but probably understands nothing?
It's a pretty big question to kick off with, but I think based on my experience over the last couple of organisations and more recently, one of my biggest pieces of advice is kind of not to overpromise. So really kind of under-promise and over-deliver in terms of what any of your tech or AI can do, both to your teams, but also to your stakeholders and your businesses. So I think that's where humility comes in. Sometimes we like to think about AI and go hard and sell it, and this is going to change our lives. But the reality is that change is incremental, and you want your teams to come on the journey. And so I think that's where you have to be humble around what the benefits are, and then just shoot it out of the park once everyone comes on the journey.
Yeah. Jamie?
I think there are a couple of things for me. First is, as talent leaders, it means we have to really make sure that our people are capable and have the competency and the basic recruitment fundamentals, because if you're relying on AI to do part of your recruitment process and it messes it up, you really want your people to be able to identify that quickly. And then the second piece for me is around leadership as a TA or talent leader, making sure that you are actually genuinely still leading your team, you're being transparent, you're being open, and letting them know what's happening, why and how, and all those things as well, because that's something that I think could very easily get lost, and then holding your leaders in the business to account as well, because if AI is making decisions, which in our organisation it's not allowed to, but if you're in an organisation where it is, that can lead to some pretty lazy behaviour.
Before I go on to Tracy, you just mentioned there that AI is not allowed to make decisions in your business.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, so if we're looking to implement any technology anywhere in our organisation, we have to do a data privacy impact assessment. And in that impact assessment, there are two questions relating to AI. And the first one is, will this technology be making any decisions, and what are they? And if you say yes, the privacy team comes straight back to us. Because we're dealing with superannuation and pensions, it's a highly regulated part of the financial services industry. If you say yes, they come back and say, can you switch it off? And if you say no, the technology is dead in the water. We're not allowed it.
Does anyone else have those sort of restrictions in their workplaces?
Oh.
Yeah? Yeah.
Like
like-
MUFG Investor Services down here. Technically part of our parent company.
Tracy, do you have anything to add?
So yes, agree with everything that you guys both said. I think the main thing that I would add is two things, actually. Capability is another huge piece. Making sure that any stakeholder who is touching AI, has anything to do with AI, interacts with AI, has the skills in which to do that, right? They understand the tool that they're using, they understand what type of AI it is, how it learns, etc. And I think that's especially important in the recruiting space. And then the other piece is, you know, to borrow from what Jamie just said, is communication, right? So making sure everybody understands what the guardrails are, having proper policy in place, having proper rules of engagement. It's not going to be all-encompassing because we're all still learning, but I think that's, you know, for us, those are the major things.
It's really interesting because we're in this age where, with AI in particular, you know, if we're putting a big review before implementation in a business, by the time we've got to the end of the review, the technology's changed. So it's really difficult to keep up. Very, very difficult. Mm-hmm. Next question. I'm going to start with you, Lauren. This could go anywhere.
Uh-oh.
The contingent workforce in APAC is booming, but are we building strategy as a region, or are we just surfing chaos with better spreadsheets at the moment?
Okay, it's a bit of both, I'll be honest with you, depending on the sector. Like, obviously Australia has a massive mining and resources sector. Now, a lot of that you're running with strategy, because contingent are a huge part of their modus operandi, but the rest of Australia, I'm going to say, are pretty much running around like they're chook with their head cut off, I can tell you now, because they just, it's hard. We've got massive skill shortage, and we're cutting back on immigration, which is the most ridiculous political policy I've seen in a long time, considering we have no one now to do the work that we need in the tech sector, and we're not training people up quick enough. So I think it's a bit of best of both worlds at the moment. The mining sector do it well, do it very well, but other sectors don't.
Just a disclaimer too, if you're going to give political statements, keep them to Australia, because
fuck off.
I might be going to America next year and I want to be let in. So just, it is interesting with contingent, because up until very recently we've had to rely on technology like Spyglass, really big enterprise stuff, and now a lot of mid-tier businesses are really buying into the contingent space, and there's a lot more agile technology out there, and I think that it's moving, you know, globally it's moving really quickly, and we should be really looking, if you have a contingent workforce or looking to get into one, really look at your workforce planning and the tech around that can support what you're doing.
Well, one of the examples that we had recently was Link Mining, and they do refurbishment of mining sites where the whole entire mining thing shut down, they go in with a staff of 400 for 3 to 4 weeks and refurbish the whole entire mine. So they have developed their own entire app for all of these certified people to come on board and to manage that contingency out of Perth, which is extremely remote, and it's one of the most genius pieces of technology to manage mobile sites for that short amount of time and to get them in the middle of nowhere. And these are all FIFO workers that are going to 600-800 kilometres away from their nearest city.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Do any of you guys want to add anything on the contingent space?
Yeah, I'll just say from a regional perspective, Australia is very different so we operate in India, Hong Kong and New Zealand as well. Australian legislation makes contingent worker rights quite ambiguous. A lot of companies are quite gun shy, so they get payrolled through third-party organisations like agencies. But in Hong Kong and India, we don't have those restrictions. And so it's really easy to do contingent recruitment in India and Hong Kong compared to Australia and New Zealand. So from a regional perspective, it's very different across the region.
Except it's not that easy to recruit in India for contingent workers.
Also notice words.
Do tell.
So, it's pretty much the same as hiring for a full-time employee when you're recruiting for a contingent worker in India, except there's more of a stigma, so not so attractive proposition to a candidate. There's also a 30-day notice period that's applicable, which is the same as a full-time employee. So there's really no benefit.
Except
and also
they can be up to 90 days.
Exactly.
In India,
right?
it's for a notice period.
So, there's no speed to hire either.
No.
It's also treated the same way as recruiting like a full-time employee. So I guess my note of caution here is for global organizations who maybe in the US are used to bringing somebody in the next day on a contingent basis and thinking that they're going to be able to get, use that person for a specific time limit and leave them go as soon as that's done. That is not possible. So I guess that's a consideration if you're thinking about exploring that market for the contingent space.
Yeah.
And I would also add one other thing, to cut across Kate, is having a good technology in place to be able to manage your contingent workforce is really, really key. For us, we use Fieldglass. It ties into SAP SuccessFactors. It's not perfect, but it allows us to be able to properly track that workforce, also manage their pay, also manage their payroll, and also manage any updates to different pay regulations across the globe, which is like a huge piece that often gets overlooked with contingent workers. You have to be very careful about legislatively. I totally messed that one up, but anyway, you know what I meant. And you just have to be very, very careful that you are looking after each concern per country and have that all like checks and balances in place.
Yeah, 100%. And there's very few technologies that can actually do that well.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that boils down to visibility. Like one of the main problems with contingent workforce is visibility internally and therefore not knowing what it's costing you. And the larger the organisation, the bigger the problem that is. And there was a bit of research in Australia recently where it was one of the big banks where the head of procurement and finance were asked to give a number on what they were spending on contingent labour, and ended up being 67%, the number they gave 67% less than what they were actually spending. So they had no visibility and no real knowledge of where the money's being spent.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting. Gender.
Oh, here we go.
Gender.
Go on, give it to me, Craig.
Oh, you went there.
Yeah, I'll go there.
Right.
Gender equality in hiring has had its moment, if you listen to a lot of
you
people.
can fuck off on that one.
But now with AI screening and ranking candidates, how do we stop unconscious bias
let's
becoming...
just back it up to the first part of that question. Gender's had its moment. Until I get paid the same as every other average white man, we have not had our moment. So, no.
She just did that for applause.
Oh, please.
So, okay, let's that's another topic, isn't it, when we talk about gender pay imbalance.
Yeah.
Why don't you talk a little bit about how, in our region, how that's being addressed?
Australia and New Zealand do it brilliantly. I've got to say that. They are
Go
fourth
the Kiwis.
globally. Go the Kiwis. If you haven't noticed, Jamie is from New Zealand.
New Zealand, I'm not Australian.
They are fourth globally in the gender pay gap going, that's by World Economic Forum. Australia comes in at number 24 this year. Prior to that, we were number 27. So we are getting better, but we've got what we call the WGEA, that's the Workplace Gender Equality Agency, which is very similar to what you guys do here in the UK. We're not a little bit behind, I'll be honest with you. And we are a little bit behind with what the UK are doing, but we're getting there very, very quickly with the naming and shaming of where we're at. We're sitting on average at around about, are you selfieing yourself on stage?
Yep.
And we are
heard
getting
this
there quite
soapbox
quickly
before.
in a sense that we are now naming companies, because the first year that we went, all the stats went public, the companies were anonymous. So a lot of the big companies were going, oh, it's a woman's choice to have children, they choose to do that, coming from the majority of male CEOs, without looking at the stats. And now that they're actually being named, they're actually coming up with workable plans to make things better. And we're finding Australia at the moment has the highest participation rate in the workforce of women ever recorded, because we can do hybrid working, which I'm a massive fan of, because we are still taking the majority of the household chores, unfortunately, and people don't see that, where we can manage that and still work with a full-time propensity to put out output and do that from home. And it's amazing. I remember coming out of a conference last year that we hosted and talking to people about the gender pay gap, and I went on a bit of a lost my shit moment on stage, because the people were not putting a gender lens on return to work, return to the office. And one woman came up to me and said, my husband now realises that picking kids up from school, it's just not picking kids up from school and then getting back to work. You've got to give them a snack. You've got to make sure they're not killing each other. You've got to make sure they're entertained. You've got to do that. He did not realise how much work goes into doing those little jobs that we do. And now he's like, I get it. I get it. And I think that there needs to be quite a few what the fuck moments from a few people to get where we're at. And the gender pay gap is a massive thing that I will not stop talking about until I get paid like an average white man.
Let's talk about let's talk about AI and unconscious bias, right? So I'm going to pass this down the line. Anyone jump in? Is the advent of using AI in part of the recruitment function, is it helping reduce unconscious bias? And we're talking diversity hires, gender hires, across the board.
I'll start. Sorry, Tracy.
No, you go.
You
Go for it, mate.
So our organisation, we don't have AI in our recruitment process except for our contact centre assessment centres. So we're a large multinational. We were Australian headquartered up until the middle of last year. We've been acquired by a Japanese company. We've been told we won't be moving off any of our existing systems. So for us, it's actually a non-starter. The impact for us is the number of candidates submitting really generic CVs and cover letters, and my team going through all of them and then calling them and going, hang on, there's a really big mismatch between what's on your CV and cover letter and the conversation that we're now having. So it's actually creating more work for my team, and right now, internally, we don't have a solution.
So you've got no AI to mitigate the AI-driven applications?
No.
Interesting.
But this
More
is
with
the
less,
thing, right?
everyone. More with less.
Yeah, but
That's
this
life.
is the thing, right? If you're in a big multinational organisation, you've got really cumbersome procurement processes, you're locked into a 3, 5 or 5+2 year contract with an Oracle or a SAP, you're never...
Don't get us started on InfoSec.
You know, the cost of transitioning or bolting on additional AI, and then you're not getting native AI, which is a whole different conversation. Yeah. It's really, really challenging for large businesses to be agile when you take all of those things into consideration. I think startups are going to be the ones to watch, really watch, because they're the ones that are just embedding it in every piece at the moment. So
and the other thing, and I know Lauren says this a lot, is that you've got to look at who's training the AI to see whether the unconscious bias is going to be there or not. Right?
Yeah. I think the thing is, though, we have data. When you use AI, you have data and you train it and you can be accountable for it. I think people ask me, particularly in our organisation, as we put AI in, well, you know, what about the bias? Have you met my recruiters? Like, have you met my hiring managers? They are not unbiased, and I cannot measure that unless we are looking at the data of hires every week, every quarter, every year, which people don't around D&I, because people don't always declare as well. We've seen a significant increase increasing the comfort of our neurodiverse candidates to do the AI assessments. They like that they're not having to do a video interview, not having to submit a video interview. They hate putting videos of themselves out. My Gen Zs, so my neurodiverse candidates, love AI gamified assessments, and they love what it means for their application. And it means I get data that I can check the biases, we can keep training it, we can keep looking at it, and we can change and adapt. I don't always know what my people are being biased about. It's unconscious for them, and you can try and train that out, but we know, and we've all come to the conclusion, you can't completely train out unconscious bias. And so it's about, do you pick the potential bias you can track and address, or the one you'll never know about?
But you also can't untrain an AI either. So this was a really interesting topic of discussion yesterday at the Leaders Summit. So Chris Long, if anybody knows him or doesn't know him, follow him. He's doing some really great thought leadership on AI and cognitive AI in talent acquisition and broader HR as well. He's done some really powerful studies, some of them with the UN here in Europe. But one of the things that's resonated with me that he said yesterday, which scared the shit out of me, I'm not gonna lie, right? Because he's like, well, I set a task to my team members to help train this AI, this agentic AI, right? Not even the generative AI. And there was 3 different people, 3 different profiles in the team. Same prompts were used, and it all came up with different results and different types of biases that came back with that. And it was stuff that wasn't even on their LinkedIn or anything. It was pulling from conversations that they'd had in messages and the way that they talk to their partner online and things like that. So it was actually replying in that tone, using suggestive tone of voice as well that matched that. So when we're talking bias, there's going to be bias there. This is as scary as F-U-C-K, because we can't, once it's there, once it's being trained, it can't unlearn that shit, and there's no way to untrain it. We can't train it out.
No,
it's
right,
there
Tracy.
forever.
Which I think is why he did 25 agents, and then actually got rid of the ones that didn't work.
Hey, team, we've got 6 minutes left, and we're not even halfway through.
All right.
So
We could go for an hour on this.
So the next thing I'm going to say, there's a recent study out of Erasmus University in the Netherlands, and they had a really good data set and where this study came from. So they were actually looking at the way that candidates will approach AI that companies are using. Now, this was released about not even a week ago, this study. So they were looking at the fact that candidates are now generating, obviously we know they're using the job description, the ad to generate the cover letter, to manipulate the CV, but they're also generating it to manipulate the way they approach interview questions around what they think the AI will want to see. So they're losing and eliminating their own soft skills and their own personalities to go through the interview process and the application process. So the suggestion out of this is if you take away a human element and replace it with AI, and you're not auditing that with a human element, then you are destined to fail and create bias.
Yeah, correct.
100%.
We're going to move on to the second last question. I'm going to go straight to you, Kate. How are TA teams in APAC coping with constant change? So restructures, hiring freezes, and tech overhauls, while still being expected to revolutionise the candidate experience.
I'm going to the pub for a drink with these girls. That's how I cope.
Well, I mean, apart from the drinking, a lot of them are not coping, I think, and it's often dependent on the maturity of the organisation, the maturity of the team, and then your individuals in each team. And I think for a long time we've known that the attributes of a successful TA leader, are diverse, and it's not enough to just be a TA strategist or a TA SME. What we need to do now in this, kind of the face of all the constant change is be experienced change managers. We need to be project managers, and above all else, I think in the coping is we need to build psychological safety in our teams. They are just being faced with, kind of unease and change and needing to be agile on a daily basis. And so what I found is the most important is building resilience in the team, because you can't ever tell them that change will stop. They get change fatigue if you kind of don't build that resilience and that safe space for them to come and be like, I don't know what this means. I don't know what this means for me. But what I found is really great is the what's in it for me. So with every single one of them individually, it's a lot of work. what is it in for them if we're automating, if we're offshoring, if the op model's changing, if we're bringing in AI. And I've seen some of my team think about their careers and their future differently than they ever have before, because they know that their role will change. They have to change their capabilities. They have to uplift those, whether we do that with them or they go and do that themselves. And so I think it's about getting individual connection to what the change is and just being so clear about what it means for you. You don't have to screen 1,000 candidates anymore. You don't have to do all those moves in the step in the ATS anymore. You don't have to do the transactional high volume work anymore, but then draw a picture or paint a picture on what you would do instead. And a lot of them get scared. They're like, I don't know how I'd do that. I've never done that before. I've been phone screening for 10 years. And so these kind of day in the life of a future recruiter is super powerful to help the coping, the resilience, and for them to feel that they can be agile.
Fantastic. I'm going to go to the last question. I'm going to get a comment from all of you if possible. So if TA in APAC is 2 years behind or 2 years in front, depending on which LinkedIn influencer you speak to, what are we doing differently than the rest of the world that they should take shamelessly and copy? I'll go to you first, Jamie.
I'm just going to talk about something that I'm seeing happening slowly, but it is happening in Australia. I think I've got about 5 peers now who, like me, have transitioned from a TA leader to a talent leader. So we've merged the talent management and the TA function within the organisation into one. So my team still has talent acquisition. It's about 70% of their role. And then we've also got succession planning, internal career mapping, internal career pathways, internal mobility, and all of those other things that sort of surround talent, that give you a 360 view of your internal organisation, as well as obviously the external market data that we have to pull in as well. And I'm seeing a couple of organisations in Australia and New Zealand that are doing this, and they're doing it well. So I would recommend, if you've got, a seat at the table in your organisation, that you start to have that conversation, because it is just making us so much more effective, particularly with our internal talent, at helping people move internally through the organisation and identify how they can build their career internally with us, because that's the number one piece of feedback we get every year on our employee engagement survey is, I don't know what my next job in this company is. I don't know how to build my career. I don't know what skills I need to get into this next job. So we've piloted it through Australia and moved out all the global recruitment reporting lines out from me. So I now only have 5 direct reports, which is awesome. So UK reports through to UK HR, India reports through to India HR, and so on. And then I'm sort of sitting over the top from a more holistic, and we're driving out projects from Australia and then getting local participation, so it's all got local flavour. So steal that shamelessly. Happy to chat if anyone wants to talk about how we've done that.
Tracy?
So for me, one thing that I think we do great in Australia is community. And this could not be more important in this moment with everything that is going on in the world, the uncertainty. And I think it seems the same here, right? The UK, you guys have a fabulous talent community going on. This is just testament today. But the importance of networking, the importance of connecting IRL with people has never been more important for me. Actually meeting in person, whether that's for a coffee, a handshake. There isn't an event near you, start one up. That's what I've done.
Yeah, Tracy, Tracy runs a Brisbane recruitment meetup group that it's a fantastic community, and they catch up in the pub and do trivia nights. It's really, you learn, but you also are really there to network. And
so I've been inspired by, the likes of Bill, right, with True. And it's that kind of nod to that. We're taking it to another level with speakers and, keeping it informal as well. So for me, that is one of the things that I think Australia, and actually in APAC in general, that they do really, really well, because they're popping up all over the place.
Yeah.
Not
and I'd echo that. I think there's definitely, it's not about the secret squirrel. We're not holding what our challenges are, close to our chest. We're
therapy.
Therapy. We're sharing, we're learning from each other, and we're thinking, look, I've wanted to do this, but you've done it, so I can go back to my organisation and be like, well, they've done it, so we really should. Yeah. And so that's really great. And then the other one I'd say is we're resourceful. We are scrappy as hell. So if we want to do something, we'll do it off the smell of a wet rag. We will go and get $5,000 and build an EVP. We will do it until someone goes, oh, that's really good, and then we get big business cases and money, but we make it work on nothing because we just want to show we can.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And I have to agree there with you, Kate, because Jamie created an
Yes.
EVP for a nearly 4,000 people business with no budget.
Yeah.
No budget at all. And it was just phenomenal to see. And that's it. We do run off the oily rag scenario because we don't get the budgets from the big companies. We're a small country population-wise that we don't have any of that. So people do sort of go, oh, I can't do that. And they don't want to spend money because we don't have budgets to waste. We can't experiment. So we do actually create stuff out of absolutely nothing.
Yep. Yeah. We've run out of time. I've just checked the temperature app and we're now at 40.7 in this room.
I told you it was hot.
Thank you for sticking with us. We really appreciate it.
Questions.
If you could just thank this wonderful panel.
Questions.
Thanks for facilitating, Craig.
Thanks, Craig.
The only man on the
Thank
stage.
you. Yes.
Okay, so thank you to Craig and all the panel. Let's have another round of applause. And I think the panel should also applaud the audience. And give
Yeah,
them a
thank
cheer.
you.
We're sticking with it, guys.
Any questions,
Thank you.
Bill? Any questions? Questions?
We haven't got time.
Do we have any questions for the panel? Anyone got a question? Burning
Here we
question?
go.
All right.
Over here.
Question.
Yes, we have.
Thank you. I think it was kind of asked and answered by yourself. I work for a startup kind of ramp-up kind of company. Have you guys already admitted, if that's the right word, that AI is coming in? Or is there a red line that you've already got? 'Cause I think you mentioned your risk people are pushing back.
Yeah.
And
Fear.
Yeah.
so part
Yeah.
B to that question is, have you admitted that your ATS is going to push AI in regardless?
Yeah.
It's already there,
Yeah.
right? You're getting like automatic email notifications.
Yeah.
You know,
And
you've got
updates.
chatbots on your website. Like,
Yeah.
we're just
It is-
freaking out about this new iteration of it.
It's already
It
in
is
there.
there.
Yeah.
It's about, is the AI making a hiring decision for our organisation?
Yeah.
If
Right.
I think about recruitment, right?
So that's what I mean by the red
There
line.
are broader,
So-
there's a line there where AI is not allowed to ultimately make the decision. So it can tell us somebody's scored a particular level on a test. It can tell us where they rank compared with other people, but it cannot auto-reject and it cannot hire.
Auto progress, yeah. And I think you'll find you might have similar. We were waiting to see what the Australian AI guidelines were, and they went EU rather than New York.
Yeah.
So ADM, so automated decision making, which is what we're talking about here, that's kind of the point. Like most of our organizations won't endorse ADM. So everything up until that point, you can put it in your process, but also for us, our candidates can opt out, so have to build a whole other process around it
Yeah.
if they don't want to be part of the AI.
Yeah, we'll find too that Australia and New Zealand will often adopt what the EU is doing.
Yeah.
We'll
Yeah.
stay away from the States. We won't
Yeah.
go near them with a 10-foot pole. We usually
Unless
what
you work for a US company.
Oh, fucking hell,
Yeah.
they can piss off. But that's it. If you're a US company coming into Australia, unless you're running off an EU guideline and along those lines, people won't go near you.
Yeah.
The hiring processes in Australia and around our labour laws are very, very similar
Right.
to the EU and
Yeah.
to the UK.
Yeah.
So we do look to that as guidance because our politicians are so darn slow.
But it's coming, and even government, I work for a government business entity, and they want to bring AI, and they know the automation and the efficiency needs to be realised. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so next question. Any more questions anywhere?
Excellent. Let's go to the bar.
Let's go.
Let's have
Thanks,
applause for the
everyone.
team. Thank you very much.
Thank you.